What's up, kings and queens? It's your boy Dan from Daft Previews. I've got 4 picks that I've already put down, which I'm going to take you through today. Now, if that sounds interesting, let's go.
Sub to the channel because your boy's getting busy. Coming to you live from the west side of Sydney. We've got the free picks and the juice on the daily. It's all free, you don't even have to pay me.
Before we jump into my picks, we've got to recap the day that was. It was an absolute disaster. There are many ways to describe it, but I'm trying my best not to cuss out here. Awful day. I shared 4 picks with you guys yesterday. I only hit one of those suckers, VIP. I shared even more. We lost even more. So minus 8.67 units. I'm not going to hide this from you guys. I'm going to be as transparent as possible. This is all part of betting. I don't want to give you guys the illusion that I'm cashing out all the time because it's not true. Had a pretty awful day in VIP. Bad day actually took us in the negative for January. So about, I think, 2 units down for the month. Plenty of time to get it back. But for the second day in a row, we didn't hit any value plays, which kind of exaggerates the pain. Now, what I've done is I've done a review of all the bets of the day. Of course, I always do that. But I've started to review all the bets on the season. I even started to review last season's data, and I actually found some interesting trends. Check this out. This is my tracker from last season. Check it out. Profitable most months. Last season, throughout the regular season, got over 100 units profit. Did struggle a little bit in the playoffs, but for the most part, it was an excellent year. But in January last year, 18 units down. So struggled at the same point, struggling again now. And even though we're only 2 units down, for some reason, it just gets a little bit more difficult. So then I went into this whole rabbit hole of trying to figure out why it's difficult. And pretty much this is what I've come up with. January, I put it down to being difficult for a couple of reasons. The first one, there's mid-season fatigue and injuries. You know that injury list is just growing. So many more game time decisions. Now we have this illness thing going around. A lot of mid-season fatigue and injuries right now. Also, not only is it good for sports bettors because we have more data to work with when we make our picks, but those sports books as well, they get access to the same data, probably even more. Their algorithms get a lot sharper, get a lot smarter as well. Another thing, if you think about the teams, they get better on the defensive side of things. They can make adjustments. They know the types of players they're up against. And the other thing is when it comes to wild and unpredictable things, at this point in the year, teams start tanking, teams start experimenting. There's some teams know they're not going to make it in the playoffs. So they're just toying with lineups and rotations right now. So there's a lot of unpredictable things that can happen as well throughout this month of January until we hit that all-star break. So I'm making a very small pivot in my approach, trying to consider more things really, not just looking at the season in totality, but looking at a lot more recent things. Also just relying on knowledge of the sport, probably pulling back from a little bit of data and just trying to use some common sense to it all. A couple of key points I called out for VIP is to stay patient. We stick to the process, not chasing any losses. I'm extremely happy with bankroll management and discipline and volume of bets and stuff. I'm really doing a great job of that instead of trying to force anything. Another thing is really to keep your perspective around all this. Profitability over the whole season is what's more important than just a couple losing days, weeks. Hopefully it doesn't go for weeks. But what I'm saying is if you just look at it in isolation, it's awful. It's going to feel like your world's crumbling. But in reality, this is a long season. There's a lot of time to make some cash. A lot of people who were part of my VIP joined at the start of the season. October was slow. The start of November was slow. I actually lost probably half of the subscribers I had. And then as soon as they jumped ship, we went and racked up 100 units of profit in 6 weeks. And the strategy didn't even change. From the time I was losing to the 100 units profit in 6 weeks, the strategy did not change. So going to stay true to what we do. Another thing is that even though I study all the picks and I share them with everyone and I give them the analysis, it's really important for your own mindset to decide whether you think it's a good bet or not. I wouldn't blindly tail anything. Consider the information that you're given. And if you like it, then jump on and ride it with me. The main reason I'm calling that out is because, one, your mental health will thank you for it. When you when you lose a bet and then your first response is to blame other people for it, it means you're not learning. It means you're not growing. You've learned nothing through that whole experience. You're just throwing blame at other people. Whereas if you take accountability for the bets that you place, then when they lose, you can assess, well, why did I like it? What did I get wrong? And what have I learned from this and how can I move forward? So I'm not trying to push blame on anybody else. When my bets lose and my picks lose, it's completely on me. I don't blame nobody for that. It's my picks. It was my decision at the end of the day. What I'm saying is I encourage you guys to approach that same mentality. Your mental health will be stronger. Your discipline in sports betting will be so much better. You guys will thank me for it in the future. But despite the tough start in 2025, I've lost no confidence. Small adjustments will be made, of course. That's life. Can't win all the time, but we can win long term. What did I have on the day? Let's recap this out. Trae Young over 11.5 assists. The Hawks managed to score 115 points today. They dished out 32 assists. They averaged 29. Trae Young finishes with only 7 assists in 34 minutes. Now, that was a bad read. He didn't get the minutes. He didn't get the potential assists I would have expected. The Atlanta Hawks were experimenting. They were mucking around in different lineups. Trae Young, even though the game was somewhat close, didn't see heavy minutes. He wasn't in foul trouble. DeAndre Hunter's out there playing point guard for a little bit. They still left Garrison Matthews open wide in this game. Yeah, it was a bad read, but a lot of the stuff that happened in that game was somewhat unpredictable. Denny Ardvia over 15.5 points. Now, he goes for 4 from 12 in shooting. He plays the minutes I expected. He played 34 minutes, but he shoots poorly. He doesn't get to the free throw line at all. When you're watching that game, he really just lacked aggressiveness. That's one thing I saw. But also, Sharp and Anthony Simons, they didn't like him today. They refused to pass him the ball. At the end of the day, it was a bad read. I expected him to absolutely smash this line. So even if he just hit it, I probably wouldn't celebrate it too hard because I expected Denny Ardvia to absolutely kill it today. He didn't get close to that. That's how bad my read was. And look, I was probably over-relying on some recent form, or maybe he hit that point where he'd done it too many times. Maybe Dallas picked it up on the scouting report, what they need to do differently to slow this man down, because Denny Ardvia was killing Dallas throughout the season. So it could be a little bit of that too. I also bet an Amon Thompson over 16.5 points. He only had 10 points, 6 attempts. That was an awful read. And the part that I think is awful, like he did get foul trouble, and that's not why it's a bad bet. The part that's a bad bet around it is Ja Morant. I didn't even factor him in. I looked at Amon Thompson playing a volume number of minutes in a certain type of matchup, which, yeah, it made sense, but he was defending Ja all game. If you're going to be the key defender on Ja, you're likely going to find some foul trouble, and that's why it was such an awful bet. PJ Washington, again, I went back to it, over 4.5 points in the first quarter. I felt like he owed me something, and PJ Washington said, I don't owe you shit. He scored 2 points in the first quarter, 0 from 4. I'm pretty much done. PJ Washington wins, the sports books win, and I lose. So I'm not doing that again. Did hit 2 winners on the day, though. Nikola Jovic got him over 10 points. I thought it was a great read, even though he only scored 11. Now, listen to me here. He plays the minutes he should play off the bench, like 28 minutes or something, but he takes 14 shot attempts. For a line at 10, 10.5, and you pick a player to take 14 shots, it's an excellent read. He shot the ball poorly, and it's still cash. And that's the types of picks that I want to win. They're the things I'm looking for. So I was pleased with that, even though he only scored 11. And then Max Strus, over 13.5 points, rebounds, and assists. This was a lucky play, in my opinion. Donovan Mitchell got ruled out. The line moved up to 17.5, and then he finished on 17. He only took 7 shots in this game. Luckily, they were all 3-pointers, and he made 4 of them. So if it wasn't for that, this play could have been toast. But I do feel lucky about the whole Max Strus play. Regardless of how much effort I put in to find it, the circumstances involved, I think I lucked out a little bit. Quick look at how my track is looking. So this is where I'm at on the season. October, -9 units. November, 26 units up. December, 72 units up. And now in January, we're 2 units down. But the same thing we do with a lot of this sports betting stuff. I don't want to actually, I'm not going to bring up his name. I've been saying it too much, and you guys have heard enough of it. But you know how when Steph Curry has an awful game, that game he had not too long ago where he was absolutely terrible, he missed so many shots, yada, yada, yada. Every man and their dog was game enough to bet on Steph Curry for a bounce back. And it's very similar with sports betting. And when you're looking at people like me, like, you know, there's going to be a bounce back eventually, and it's going to be humongous. So what I'm saying is, don't give up on your boy yet. I'm still putting the same type of effort in. I'm still the same guy who won a lot of money last month, just doing it tough right now. But anyway, bounce back is coming. No guarantee that it's today, though. But I'll take you through the 4 picks. I'll explain it all to you. And if you're down with that, jump on and ride it with me. Let's go. So we're jumping into Props Madness. Props Madness, my go-to tool for all my NBA player prop betting. I encourage you guys to check this out. It's got all the advanced filters and stuff like that. 7-day free trial in the video description below. Plus, you get 25% off if you use the code DAFT when you happen to sign up. Now, I've got 4 different picks to run with you. We'll try to hit it in order from the first game to the last. Now, let's talk about it. Looking at the Bucks versus the Magic first. Now, in this game, a couple of game time decisions, but it looks like a lot of the key players will be there. Dame, Giannis, Chris Middleton, all game time decisions, but they're likely to play. For Orlando, Paolo Banchero could be making his return. Was questionable the day prior, didn't play. Second leg of a back-to-back. Probably more likely to play. We'll see what happens. But whether he plays or not doesn't impact the bet that I eventually landed on. So the bet that I'm rolling with today does come from the Milwaukee Bucks. And I'm looking at Chris Middleton today. Now, Chris Middleton, he didn't play in their most recent game either for the Bucks. So he's back here today, and he's actually playing off the bench. So for Chris Middleton, I'm looking at his rebounds and assist prop. His line's at 7.5 today, and I am looking at the over. Now, I've already got the filter on of his games with Dame Lillard and Giannis Antetokounmpo. He's over this line in 6 out of the 8 games, averaging 8.8 rebounds and assists. He's playing off the bench in this one, but the whole reason he's playing off the bench is so the Milwaukee Bucks have, I can't even say the word, continuity. Oh, gosh, I should have finished school. Continuity in their starting lineup. So they're running with Taurean Prince because they know that in back-to-back sets, Chris Middleton's likely going to sit out. So if they keep switching Middleton for Prince, right, it disrupts everything. So they're going to keep Prince in the starting lineup, but I think Chris Middleton still sees the same number of minutes. RotoWire has him projected to play 25 minutes, which is slightly higher than what he's been averaging throughout this season anyway. So I think the 7.5 is a great number. It's a very beatable line here for Chris Middleton. For example, when he played the San Antonio Spurs a couple of days ago, his rebounds and assist line in that game was at 9.5. So for him to get the same game time I expect, but we're getting a 2 rebound and assist discount, I actually like this here for Chris Middleton. Now let's talk about it. He's going to see more time in the second unit, of course, coming off the bench. In that second unit off the bench, they lack any real playmakers. So Chris Middleton's going to have to get in that playmaking bag. They get AJ Green, who just shoots it the minute he catches it. Bobby Portis, he's just mainly scoring as well off the bench. So I think Chris Middleton's going to be relied upon to do some more playmaking in this. He also has an excellent connection with Giannis Antetokounmpo. They've obviously been together for, a decade, close to. And I guess Chris Middleton, what highlights that was the last game he played against Orlando on the 11th of December. In that game, Chris Middleton had 8 assists. So he had 8 assists and 4 rebounds against this same Orlando Magic team. But when I broke it down and I looked at the tape, from the 8 assists that he had against Orlando, 6 of them were to Giannis. And I think 5 of them was Giannis cutting backdoor or cutting through the basket and just getting some dunks and layups. So Chris Middleton, I hope to see more of that connection with Giannis, and he's going to dime up. I also think because Chris Middleton has a difficult matchup to score points in this one. He's going to have to rely more on that playmaking to prove that he's worth being on the court. So I like the playmaking angle here for Chris Middleton. And if you think about his rebounds, I do like his rebounds in this. Chris Middleton, given his current fitness, his age, his appearance, however you want to factor it in, he's not a great defender is what I'm trying to say. So Chris Middleton, most likely defending low usage players on the wing, sitting on the weak side. So there's going to be a lot of uncontested rebounds. This Orlando Magic offense is not great at all. They play slow as hell. Their offense sucks. They'll miss a lot of shots. They do have some strong rebounders in Wendell Carter Jr. and Goga Bitadze. So Brook Lopez, Giannis, going to have their work cut out for him in this one. Chris Middleton should get a lot of uncontested boards. So I'm running with the rebounds and assists combined. I think there's a nice juicy edge there. Also, he had 12 rebounds and assists in that last game against the Orlando Magic. We only need 8 to cash here. He's longer into the season, so you'd assume he's fitter than he is now than he was the last time he played Orlando. Really liking this look here for Chris Middleton, over 7.5 rebounds and assists. This is a line that I don't think will move. I don't think we see a lot of people betting on this either. So take it at 7. If it moves to 8.5, I'd probably avoid it. But at 7.5, less party. I like it because when these rebounds and assist lines move, it's pretty impactful. Like moving from 7.5 to 8.5 is a very big jump. It's bigger than 10%. Whereas if it's a points line, it's a little bit different. So rebounds and assists, 7.5. Let's run with that. The next game where my bet is, we're looking at the 76ers versus the New Orleans Pelican. Running with a popular play today. I think while the games are on, I just opened up my sports book just to see. One, I was just checking to see who's playing tomorrow. And then I was like, they've got the lines out already. Let me take a look. And then I caught one and I was like, I've got to bet on this. So I'm sure you're probably betting on this already. If you're not, now's your opportunity. But we're running with Gershon Yabusele from the Philadelphia 76ers. I'm taking his points and rebounds today, but you could get away with any of his props. So I caught this line, 18.5. It is starting to move, and at the odds that I'm currently seeing it up, 18.5, probably not worth taking. But at 19.5, if you're getting it about 120, somewhere around there, I think this is a really good look. Gershon Yabusele over his points and rebounds. Now, the whole angle here of betting on Gershon Yabusele is the fact that Joel Embiid is out, Andre Drummond is out as well. Gershon Yabusele sees a ton of minutes. Check out his games without Embiid and Drummond. He's over this points and rebounds line in every single game. He's played against Cleveland, Charlotte, Orlando, Phoenix, and Washington. Washington being the softest matchup there, and he killed them with 29 points and rebounds. He's up against the Pelicans today. And the Pelicans, it's a soft as hell matchup here. What can I say? The Pels, third worst defensive rating on the season in terms of how he likes to score. A lot of spot-up shooting. Pelicans don't defend the spot-up very well. He scores 40% of his points run under the ring. The Pelicans give up the second most points in that area as well. He shoots from above the break. The Pels, bottom 10 in defending points above the break as well. So great opportunity for Gershon Yabusele to get points. He's going to get the rebounds for the natural flow of the game. If you look at players at his position, they've eaten them alive as well. Just a really soft matchup here, and I think Gershon's going to see some time. The spread is only 4 points, so it's not like I'm saying the 76ers are going to destroy the Pelicans. Zion is back after all. It does keep the game a little bit closer, I would say, but I think Gershon's going to see his full complement of minutes here. Like in all of these games, he's played 30-plus minutes. 30-plus minutes, this man's been an absolute beast. The only risk here is potential foul trouble, I would say, but if he can avoid that, stay on the court, Gershon Yabusele should be able to eat these lines up. I'd happily play this at 19.5, 20.5. Why not? But I think 19.5 is still a really good number. At 20.5, you probably want to pivot to just points or just rebounds or something like that. But Gershon Yabusele, great opportunity, easy-ass matchup. Not a blowout, I don't think. So he should get a lot of court time here. So I do like that pick. My next one, we are heading to the New York Knicks versus the Thunder. Now, these guys just played each other not too long ago. I apologize for this. This might be a long-tailed explanation because I went deep into my bag for this one, but I'm betting on Jalen Brunson today. And I've had a bit of success betting on Jalen Brunson throughout the year, but I've had to really pick and choose my spots. And I'm picking it today against OKC. I'm liking his over 23.5 points here for Jalen Brunson. Now, he's hit this in 14 out of 27 games this season, averaging 25.3 points per game in his last 27 games, averaging 25 on the season pretty much. Now, why do I like this against OKC? Firstly, when he last played OKC, he only scored 22 points. And I get that. And if I look at the matchup, it looks like it's awful, right? The OKC, they limit points in the pick and roll. They limit points in isolation. They limit points in transition. So it's a very tough matchup. But the reason why I like it is because it's a tough matchup, we're getting a pretty low line, averaging 25 a game. Line set at 23.5. The spread's only 3 points here, so we shouldn't see a blowout. So Jalen Brunson should see a ton of minutes, but the line's still quite low, and a lot of that's because of the matchup and probably the most recent game that he played against them. Now, when I was looking into this game, I'll be honest with you guys, my original thought here was to bet on Mikal Bridges. Let me show you that. So Mikal Bridges scored 24 points against OKC in that game. Obviously played a lot of minutes. That's tips for you. I was looking at over 17.5 points here for Mikal Bridges. He scored against them. He also, looking at his games at home today, check out the hit rate at home. 13 out of 17 games at home, Mikal Bridges has gone over this line, averaging 21.1 points per game. And then we add the fact that on the road, where he doesn't play that well, he's only averaging 16 points on the road. He managed to score 24 points against OKC. And the reason why he did that is because OKC collapsed the paint. They give up points to spot-up shooters. That's their only weakness. And Mikal Bridges made him pay. 4 3-pointers made. So I was going to bet on Mikal Bridges. But then I thought about it a little bit further, dived into it. And what I found was, if you think about the flow of that game, given it was quite recent, both teams will be very much aware of this. The New York Knicks were destroying the OKC Thunder. They're up by 12 points or something at halftime, 66-54, if my memory serves me correct. And in the first half of that game, OG Anunoby, Mikal Bridges were absolutely lighting them up from downtown. I think they had like 6 3-pointers combined, those two players, right? They were lighting them up. And what was happening, every time Jalen would penetrate off the pick and roll drive, OKC would collapse the paint. That's how they normally play defense. They collapse the paint. Jalen Brunson was finding shooters out in the wing, and they were making him pay. So Jalen Brunson at halftime had 10 points. He only had 7 shot attempts, and he had 6 assists. That was all at halftime. The Knicks were up by 12. In the second half, OKC changed their defense a little bit. They said, we're not going to collapse the paint on Jalen Brunson. Let him go to work on one of our great perimeter defenders, whether it be a Lou Dort or a Cason Wallace, and see if he can score over Isaiah Hartenstein. And what we saw in that second half for Jalen Brunson was he took 16 shots in that second half. He had only 3 assists. He didn't shoot very well at all. Like on the game, Jalen Brunson, he was 9 for 23, 39% from the field. Finished with 9 assists in that game, though, and only 22 points. But in that second half, OKC managed to claw back that deficit. They managed to come back and win that game, and it's because of what they did on defense. They forced Jalen Brunson to be the scorer. They forced him into a lot of difficult shots that he would normally make, but he clearly wasn't. They limited the Bridges to like 5 shot attempts. Like Bridges scored maybe 6 or 7 points in that second half after killing them in the first. And I think because that worked so well for OKC, my gut tells me they just employ more of that strategy in this game against the Knicks today. Like if you know what's going to work, if you could shut down Bridges, shut down OG, you're not going to get Jalen Brunson hanging 50 on your head, given how good your defenders are. I think they resort to that today. Cat's got no business dealing with OKC when it comes to scoring the ball. So I think they're going to force Jalen Brunson to take a lot of shots, a lot of mid-range shots. What's funny is I looked at the shot chart, actually. 9 out of 23 shots for Jalen Brunson. The only 9 shots that he made were all in the paint. He missed every single shot that he took outside of the paint, every mid-range, every single three-pointer. So just looking at the volume here, I think there's a massive opportunity for Jalen Brunson to have a strong game. If we play around with props madness and we just look at the volume, he took 22, 23 shots in that game. If we just look at the games where he takes between, let's go, 18 and 23 shot attempts on the season, when he takes this volume of shots, he's over this line in 13 out of 18 games, averaging 28.8 points per game. So what I'm asking for Jalen Brunson here is to shoot better than the 39% that he shot against OKC last time. I'm asking him to get to the free throw line a little bit more. He only took 6 free throws in that game. And when I watched back all of his shots, there was a lot of calls in there that he'd normally get that he didn't. Now playing at home, he probably gets a friendlier whistle as well. So I expect to see more free throws, a lot of volume from Jalen Brunson. And I'm begging him to shoot better than 39% in this game, because if either one of those things happen, then I think we got a winner here. Jalen Brunson over 23.5 points. Now, it's a little bit thorough, my analysis. It's not as data-driven. It's a lot of stuff that I've observed, and I'm really rolling with a bit of gut feel now. So I don't mind that look for Jalen Brunson, 23.5. Actually, I'm going to change that. I love this look for Jalen Brunson. It's also not going to be a popular play, so I like that as well. These popular plays have been killing me at the moment. When I avoid them, they cash. When I bet on them, they don't, and I look like an idiot. So I think I'm just going to run with my gut. Let's just back that for now. We do have Gershon Yabusele on there. That's going to be a popular play for sure. But I'm happy to run that one. Now, my fourth and my final pick to share with you guys. Wizards and the Bulls are playing. Like, you had to bet on that. You can't ignore this. And going through, I think there's there's a ton of different value, a ton of different looks that you could take within this game. We've got Zach LaVine on his hot streak, Kobe White without Ayo Dosunmu. We've got Jordan Poole lighting it up. But what I eventually landed on was Nikola Vucevic, and pretty vanilla bet for Nikola Vucevic today. Vanilla Vucevic, we shall call him. I'm just looking at over 10.5 rebounds for him. Now, he's hit over 10.5 rebounds in 14 out of 27 games, averaging 10 rebounds per game. So nothing amazing if you're just looking at hit rates. But when he plays against the bottom 10 teams in terms of rebounds allowed, and I'm calling out the bottom 10 here because the Washington Wizards actually allow the most rebounds in the league. So if we look at the bottom 10 teams and how Nikola Vucevic plays against them, we can see that he's over this line in 10 out of 14 games, averaging 11.1 rebounds per game. What I also like about this play for Nikola Vucevic, or Vanilla Vucevic, 2 games against Washington already this season. He had 12 rebounds in a blowout win. He only played 29 minutes in that game, but he had 12 rebounds from 19 rebound chances. And then when the game was a little bit closer and he played a little bit more minutes, actually it was a blowout loss, I apologize, but he had 22 rebound chances, 14 rebounds against Washington last time. So 2 games, 2 very different results, but the result that we wanted was for him to go over his rebound line, which we're seeing here. So 14 and 12 boards for Nikola Vucevic. I do like that. The other thing is the Chicago Bulls, 11.5-point favorites in this game. Who would have thought the Bulls would be 11.5-point favorites on anyone? But it makes sense. The Wizards absolutely banged up, possibly tanking as well, but we'll see. But what I'm calling out here is that the Bulls are most likely to win, right? And just looking at Nikola Vucevic and his rebound efforts in wins versus losses, it's pretty dramatic. So the Bulls have lost 20 games this season. Nikola Vucevic, he's covered this line in 7 out of 20 games that they've lost. He's averaging 9.3 rebounds a game when they lose. Now, they've only won 16 games on the year, but he's covered this line in 11 out of 16 games that they've won, and he averages 11 rebounds. So there's a 2 rebound swing there, depending on whether they win or they lose. Another thing I like about this, similar types of players from Vucevic, Jokic, Mobley, Duran, Adebayo, Mobley once again. 7 out of the last 8 players with very similar rebounding profiles than Nikola Vucevic, they've covered this line against Washington. So I do love it here. 10.5 boards. I got a pretty decent odds. Chances are the odds move for this one. If it moves to 11.5, I would still play it, but I would only play a unit on it. And you got to make sure you get close to plus money. Like if it's at 11.5, you should get really decent odds for it if you're going to take this. Outside of that, if you're getting minus 120, 130-ish, then it's probably a fair line, and I don't think you have an edge. I still think he cashes it, but you want to get the good price for the bets that you do take. So those are my thoughts. That's my fourth bet. It's on Nikola Vucevic over 10.5 rebounds. Pumping the brakes real quick to ask you guys to like the video if you like the bets, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and drop me a comment down below for that algorithm. Any comment that you leave down below is going to help this video go out to more people. I appreciate everybody who does that. Now, I'm going to do a shallow deep dive with you all. It's much later than it normally would be when I'm recording this, and the last thing I want to do is delay this from getting out to you guys so you can listen to it when you're driving to work or whatever it may be. So we're going to do a shallow dive today on just a couple of insights that I have on some other games. There's a couple of game time decisions, so I have a couple of thoughts on that as well, hopefully providing you guys with some more value than just the picks themselves. All right, we've got the Warriors versus the Pacers. We've got Halliburton and Miles Turner game time decisions in this one. So for this particular game, I was actually interested in betting on Miles Turner today. I don't normally like betting on him, but I've bet on him many times before against Golden State, and he hasn't failed me once. I think Miles Turner is probably over this line in 5 or 6 consecutive games against the Warriors. So he just seems to love playing against them. Like over 13.5, it's a low line for a starting center. He's over this in 14 out of 27 games, 14.7 points per game. When he last versed the Warriors, he scored 23 points, only 14 shots, made it rain from deep, 3 from 7 from outside. And we've also got similar types of players, your Wembies. They've gotten over their points line against the Warriors. He's just got a significant size advantage. The Warriors also camp the paint, so he's going to get open looks at the top of the key. The Pacers actually playing quite well at the moment. Miles Turner has a lot to do with that. I was considering betting on Miles Turner, but he missed the last game because of an illness. Now he's a game time decision for this one. He's questionable. Even if he does play, do I want to bet on him knowing that he could still be sick? Like, I'm a little bit hesitant around that. So you'll often find I'm not betting on too many players who are game time decisions for that very reason. Like, I would hate to lose a bet because somebody was injured where they play for 5 minutes and they check out. But there's that. I also wanted to bet on Giannis Antetokounmpo. Look, in the next game, I wanted to take his over in points here. I was looking at his numbers and his record, and I think he's covered this points line every game against the Orlando Magic dating back to 2021. So we're looking at about 4 years of games here. It's like 6 or 7 games in a row. Giannis has gone over this points line against the Orlando Magic. Absolutely kills them. He must hate them or something. Like, if you just looked at matchup stuff, it's not the best matchup in the world, but it's not too bad. And Giannis showed us earlier this season that he can definitely make it happen. 37 points against Orlando, 15 from 24, just a whole lot of dunks and layups. So played very well against them, and I do like his over. But then I found the pivot to Chris Middleton. It correlates well with this bet. I don't want to ride them both. I'm going with the fish face Middleton, but I think Giannis over his points is a good look. I noticed that a lot of people managed to catch Damian Lillard at 20 points. I don't know how the hell they set that line. But it's going to be at 22.5, 23.5 on most books. He did score quite well last time against Orlando, 28 points in that game. Orlando, good matchup for Damian Lillard to score. They're not very good at defending that pick and roll very well. But like all players like Dame, you're really just looking at, can he make the shots? Because Dame's always going to get the shots that he wants. He's not afraid to take those shots. It's about the quality of the shot and how well he shoots. So even though the matchup is great, the line might be low, you're really playing with the percentages. Now, Dame has been shooting quite well lately, so I don't want to scare anybody off from taking that. I do like it. If I managed to see it at 20.5, I would have bet that too. But now it's at 22.5, probably 23.5 by the time you watch this. And the line's probably exactly where it needs to be. So I don't love it to death, but I think, and I hope, so everyone can cash that Dame does hit that points line, especially that 20.5. If this guy managed to finish on 19 points, the whole gambling world's probably going to explode. Pelicans versus 76ers. I did want to take a look at Zion Williamson. He's only played one game, though. Up against Washington, he scored 22 points in that game. 22 points, 4 assists, and 6 rebounds. His lines are all very much around that mark. He does have an easier matchup against Philly than he did have against Minnesota. First game back from his injury, he played 28 minutes, which is really positive. Probably there might not be a minutes restriction. If there is, it's probably at about 30 minutes. So I think that all checks out. It looks nice. The problem is Zion's only played one game since he's come back. One game in the last couple of months. I don't want to make any decisions based off that one game. Like, He shot the ball quite well, 60% from the field, but only 4 from 9 from the free throw line. There's definitely an area for improvement. But again, it's a very small sample size. I don't want to make any bets off that. Even though I do like it, I like the over for Zion. It makes sense in my mind. But being honest with you, I'm an idiot half the time, so I can't always trust my mind. Zion, I did lean to the over. But yeah, I just couldn't get there. I couldn't bet on my boys CJ and DeJounte again because now Zion's in the mix. I don't know how it's going to impact everybody. We've got the Kings and the Celtics. Now, I'm not betting on the Kings. A lot of Celtics, I'll say this, a lot of the Celtics, if like, luckily I did this because I think I started with Kristaps. And then I liked what I saw. Then I looked at Derek White and I loved what I saw. Then I looked at Jason Tatum and I liked what I saw. Jaylen Brown, I liked it. Peyton Pritchard, I liked it. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I think the best bet you could probably make on this is maybe Boston to cover the spread. But like all of these players, Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, Kristaps Porzingis, Derek White, Peyton Pritchard, they all have fantastic matchups to score. This Kings team doesn't play defense. The total's at 229. And I just couldn't decide who I was going to bet on. I do like probably Derek White the most. That one makes a ton of sense. Kristaps as well. I really like those two. But being honest with you, Tatum, Brown, Kristaps, White, and Pritchard, they all have fantastic matchups to score. They all have good form at some point, depending on how you want to dice it. And this is the crazy thing about, sports betting and then having to explain all your picks, whether it's in written form or whether it's on a video. Like as the person giving out the bet, you can really change the narrative and you can explain any bet the way that you want to make it look like a good bet, which is pretty wild, which is why I try to factor in why bets lose and why they win. So I try to be as balanced as I can, but like I don't think it's possible for every single one of these 5 players to go over their points line is what I'm saying. I personally like Derek White's one of the best, but they all have excellent matchups for him in the lot. But looking at Derek White, what I did was I wanted to look at the games with Kristaps because when Kristaps is in the lineup, he can screw things up for a lot of people. Derek White over this line in 8 out of 12 games with Kristaps in the lineup, averaging 16 points per game. His matchup is he's probably got the best matchup. So the Sacramento Kings allow the most points to spot up shooters in the league. Derek White scores 39% of his points from the spot up. They're bottom 5 in terms of defending above the break. He scores 55% of his points above the break. They also allow a ton of 3-pointers, bottom 10 in terms of 3-point attempts allowed. Obviously, this whole Boston Celtics team lives for those 3-point attempts, which is why a lot of them have a great matchup. And Derek White's also gone over this line in 3 straight games against the Kings. So another reason why I like it. But honestly, I wouldn't hate any of the bets that you take in these Boston Celtics. Actually, let me know down low which I think what makes sense is out of the 5 Boston Celtics players I mentioned, which one of them doesn't hit their points line and why. Let's start thinking about why some bets will lose. Hopefully, we can learn a little bit from each other. But there's some insights there. Thunder versus the Knicks. What else do we have? I think Karl Anthony Towns' rebounds is always a good look, especially in a game like this. He had 22 rebounds the last time he played OKC. The line we see today is at 13.5. OKC are not a great rebounding team, so he's got a great matchup there. My only hesitation, and this is the only reason why I didn't bet on Karl Anthony Towns today, is because my zesty bestie is questionable at the moment. He's got some tendonitis in his right knee. Now, I watched that last game against Toronto closely because I had a bet on Karl Anthony Towns, and I hated what I saw. Like, yes, his knee might be banged up, but he was limping around everywhere. Like, he was like LeBron James at his best. He was hobbling everywhere, feigning for his knee. And in my head, I'm thinking, mate, if it's really that bad, just don't play. Like, and he's kind of using it as an excuse. I wouldn't say he was using it, but especially if he missed a shot, made a bad play, he made it clear that he's injured to everybody there. And I'm just thinking, with that injury, it is that bad. But with that injury, would I feel comfortable taking this guy over 13.5 rebounds? Like, I'm not even sure if he can finish the game if the injury is that bad. Tibbs is a psychopath. He's going to play him anyway. I just didn't feel comfortable with it. But if I'm just looking at the data and what I know about basketball and stuff, then yeah, Karl Anthony Towns to go over his rebounds is an excellent bet. I'm just not comfortable with it right now based on what I saw on that last game against the Raptors. Another look here is on SGA. So SGA probably going to score between 28 and 32 points in this game. I personally was considering running a parlay of SGA like under 40 points and over 30 points because he lives within that range. And I was getting that like minus 105 or something like that. Now, if you look at his games without Chet Holmgren, and I play around with these filters, there we go. 30 plus points in 19 out of 27 games. He's hit 40 plus points in 4 of those games. So there's a pretty high chance that he finishes between 30 and 40. And if you're getting pretty much close to plus money for that, it makes sense. It'd be more of a system play. You'd have to run it every single time to really profit from it. You couldn't just pick and choose when you do it. But I did consider doing that for SGA. I think he has a good game. I think he sees a lot of volume, plays a lot of one-on-one basketball, gets a lot of shots. I do like his chances to score. 32.5, though, for SGA is risky as hell. So that worries me a bit. He pretty much hits that at 48% of the time. And he's going to get really close to it. So it's a real sweaty play. So if you think you're betting on SGA, you've got to have some strong reasons as to why, because, you know, the matchup's not going to be that easy for him. He's going to see a lot of volume, though, which is the good thing. So it's all about the percentages. We've got Isaiah Hartenstein making his return to New York against New York last time. He had 4 points, not great, but he had 14 rebounds and he had 7 assists. So when I was looking at that, I was thinking, oh, rebounds and assists, let's go. Now, he's hit this rebound and assist line at a 45% rate this year, 10 out of 22, because this line's obviously, it's moved up. This used to be at like 13.5. At 13.5, the hit rate's amazing. At 16.5, it might be just right. Now, had 21 of those suckers against New York last time. 14 rebounds, 7 assists. But check this out. He had 4 potential assists in that game. So when you see that, it's not an error in the data. It's just like how potential assists are defined. I'm going to read the exact definition for you. So the NBA stats defines a potential assist as any pass to a teammate who shoots within 1 dribble of receiving the ball. So Isaiah Hartenstein gets a lot of these assists where the person receiving it happens to take more than 1 dribble. Could be 1, 2, 3, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's an isolation. And it's funny, like depending how fast they get into the action, sometimes he'll get credited with the assist and sometimes they wouldn't. Also in home games, he might be credited more assists than he would on road games. So the assist side of thing, even though it was fantastic in the last game, might be difficult to replicate. And he's got an assist line of 4.5, which is crazy high, which is scary because you're not running any different plays. It's a whole lot of handoffs and screens and stuff like that. And eventually, if someone scores off the drive, he'll get the assist for that. So that's my hesitation on the assist side. Rebound lines at 11.5. He had 14 last time against them. I don't know, 11.5 seems like the right number for me. But yeah, for those of you Isaiah Hartenstein fans out there, go ahead, go crazy. Wizards versus the Bulls. Zach LaVine's obviously the main one. 4 consecutive games, scoring 30 plus now. This all started against the Wizards last time. He scored 32 points against them, and that was in a losing effort. Since then, he hasn't stopped. He's taking 20 plus shots in every single game. If he takes 20 plus shots again, chances are he can get to 30. I don't know. Now he's done it 4 times. All I'm thinking about is this has to end eventually, right? And what better way to end it than where it all started against Washington? But no, he does have an excellent matchup, and everyone has a good matchup in this game. So can he continue to shoot with the volume? Can he maintain that level of efficiency to get to 30? 26.5 points for Zach LaVine's a pretty high line. Like he averages, 22, 23 points on the season. So this line is heavily impacted by his recent form, and it makes sense. I think I'll tell you how you know when the line's right. When you look at it, and you're just like, I don't know whether he goes over or under or not. That's when the lines are right. So I think the line's spot on for Zach. If I was going to bet the over, I'd probably just bet on the 30. I feel like he's not going to finish between 26.5 and 30. I think he's hitting 30 or he's not going to hit this line, pretty much. That's where my mind goes. So if I did want to bet it, I would just bet on the 30, pay a little bit less, get much better odds for it. And who else is there? Looking at the Washington Wizards, game time decisions, Alex Sarr and Jordan Poole. I'd be really interested in betting on like Jonas Valanciunas if Alex Sarr is ruled out. He produces some good stats, meaningless stats, but very good ones to bet on. Been producing lately, but there's no lines available for him. If Jordan Poole plays, he's got an excellent matchup to score points, but his line's at 25.5. Has been playing very good lately. He scored 30 in his last game against the Bulls. So that line, yeah, it's a lot higher than what it has been. Like he's been a game time decision for a while now, and his line's been at 22.5, 23.5. Hasn't played a game in a week, and now his line's at 25.5. So I'm probably a little bit hesitant around that. Then we have the Nets versus the Nuggets, which is going to be a great game. Not. The Nets stink at basketball. But one thing I did consider was Ben Simmons. looking at his assists here, the line's at 7.5. And I mainly wanted to look at the games without Cam Thomas and Dennis Schroeder. That was his main competition for assists. And without those two this season, he's averaging 8.1 assists, covering in 5 out of 7 games. And he's up against the Denver Nuggets, who allow the most assists in the league. So I was very close to betting this for Ben Simmons. My only problem is, and I wish I'd never done this, is I actually watched the Nets play not too long ago. I don't know what the bet was that I had on, but it could have been the Nets versus the Pistons, perhaps. It was somebody. And it could have been the Pistons. I've been betting on Beasley too much. But I was watching this game, and all I was thinking, like, this Nets team is awful. Like, they can't score. And if you add Ben Simmons, I don't know how much that helps them, because they don't necessarily have any shooters. They've got none, especially with Cam Johnson out. So I really wanted to bet on Ben Simmons. I think he gets a ton of potential assists here, but just looking about how these Nets play, I don't know who's going to score the points. That's my only hesitation. He does have a great matchup to get some assists, but yeah, that's my only concern with it. And for the Nuggets, obviously there's no lines out at the moment because Nikola Jokic is a game-time decision, but so is Aaron Gordon. So you got to wait on the status of those guys. Obviously, if there's no Gordon, then Westbrook's always a great look. Both of them are out. Westbrook PRA is a fantastic look. But yeah, not too much value I can add on that until we know who's playing. But yeah, we'll see what happens. It could be a blowout in this game. 15-point spread, it better be. But the Nuggets have been known to play with their food every once in a while. But that's a wrap on today's video. I do hope you found some value in it. I forgot to remind you guys about the Parlay Play and Dabble giveaway. So if you sign up to any of those apps, use my code or the links down below. Deposit $10, send me a screenshot. I'll give you a month of my VIP picks for free, and you're going to the draw to win $100. I think there's about 10 more referrals that we need to get to. And once we do, the giveaway will happen live on this show. So I appreciate you guys. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and please leave me a comment down below. Let me know what your thoughts are. All love and positivity. Let's make this thing happen. Let's end the drought. Let's hopefully sweep today. I wish you guys the best of luck. We'll catch you in the next one. Peace.